was a big-time Monday evening. The General's quarters and for Tennessee recruiting Austin Price. Highly rated 4-star edge Jordan Ross made his commitment to Tennessee. I know we've watched your videos and we've read the impact analysis from Matt, but what is he bringing to the class of 2024?
For Jordan, I think that, he's liked Tennessee for a long time. He and his mom had a great time on the official visit, but they kind of had it in their mind. They wanted to take this thing the distance for whatever reason. Like, I think that was kind of the notion that they had. And then it kind of started to dwindle. And it was like all of a sudden it was October, September. Then next thing you know, it ends up in August. And, for Jordan, you're getting a long, like his length is really, really impressive. Big defensive end that can come off the edge. Again, I think there's a lot of versatility there with Jordan Ross. I mean, Hype's a big guy, and look at me, he's a lot taller than Heupel is. And, I think that the upside with him is pretty great. So, again, Jordan, big gift for Tennessee. Anytime you can get a top 50 player nationally on Monday night. Now the job is to continue to recruit him like he's not committed, Hover, because, nobody's going to stop recruiting him. And, I've said for a while, this thing just feels like it'll have 3 or 4 more turns. Maybe it'll be quiet all the way till December, but, it just has that feel to it.
Yeah, in my conversations with his mom, a little bit about the timeline standpoint, she felt like it was important. This was early on, okay? But he made 6 unofficial visits to Tennessee, so she felt like it was important that they see it all the way to December, so they could kind of see how a team's season went, to see if there were any changes. If they were going to, not just a head coaching change, but other staff changes or this, that, and the other. She felt like going early was locking him into something that could end up being somewhat of a question mark, if you will. I think they feel comfortable with that now, and I think he was ready to get it over with. I think he wanted it off his plate for his senior year and get that behind him, and they felt comfortable with Tennessee. Now, Mom has said once he's done, he's done. Now we'll see, how that changes. We all know how the recruiting process works, but initially she wanted him to wait because she wanted to make sure he had all of his options all the way till December, because you never knew what happened. But I think the more they conversed with schools in Tennessee, the more comfortable they felt with the stability at Tennessee. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah, and again, I think when you look at the teams that, were his finalists, Alabama's not making a change. And to me, the one big question mark was Florida, just because – you look at Florida, and depending on the season they have, who knows how, quick the trigger finger is on Napier down there. But, I mean, I get one to hold out. But, I mean, most of the teams that were in on him at one point or another are pretty stable.
Yeah, Brian
Nick could retire tomorrow or whatever. But, again, most feel and look pretty stable.
Yeah, agreed.
Jordan Ross, he becomes the 20th commit for the class of 2024. He's the second highest rated Tennessee commits behind Mike Matthews now in the class. He is the 13th 4-star commit, the 10th defender, the second edge in the class, along with Lindstrom. And I know some of those guys are versatile down there, but you look at this class, AP, it's well-rounded, and this is obviously one of those big boy battles that you always reference and saying, hey, Tennessee needs to win a couple. This is one of them.
Well, this one, Danny Okoye. If you can close Danny Okoye and Nasir Smith to go along with Jordan Ross, Kellen Lindstrom, and then, obviously, you look in state, down in Chattanooga. I mean, I think ultimately that's, Carson Gentle was one of the first kind of fire starters for this class, and it feels like he committed 14 years ago.
Yeah.
So. The defensive line class, not too bad. Again, you've still got to close out Danny Okoye. You still got to close out Nasir Smith. And again, if Nasir Smith has a really good year, does Georgia double back around to him? What happens with a team like Auburn? There are going to be some twists and turns. I think that's just the nature of recruiting, in this era. And again, how much, do you have to really kind of just, kind of hit and hope in some of these recruitments, because you just never know how they're going to go.
Well, then you got to see what they finish with on the offensive side at wide receiver, But when you start to look at this, I mean, that they're not big boards left because Tennessee's kind of narrowing down in their focus.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Cole at linebacker they would love to close with. They need another linebacker in this class. So what does that look like here in another month? When you know what his decision, less than a month when you know his decision, and you see where you go from there. But a lot of that hay's in the barn, and this is just a new world of recruiting. I mean, you better have most of your class built and completed by September 1. Because there's just not a lot of options left out there. A lot of guys are just gone and done because everybody wants it done really before they get into the heart of their senior season.
And AP, I would assume just they get Ross, they still love to have a Okoye, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, that doesn't change anything. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I mean, he's, uber coveted by this staff. They love Daniel Okoye.
AP, kind of random.
And then you got Cam Fountain. I mean, yeah. I said the other day, I don't know if I said this on the podcast or if it was just general conversation talking with Hubs or who, but I said at the time, like, the amount of, NIL that would go into getting a Nwaneri, like what does that look like if you got a three-headed monster of Ross, Okoye, and Cam Fountain? Like sometimes three bodies, to me are way more impressive, way better chance to be a hit than the one. And I think we all think Nwaneri is going to be a freak, right? But at the same time, you just never know in this game. So I mean, like, trying to flip Cameron Fountain, getting Ross in the boat last night, and then of course trying to land Okoye after his official visit here for the South Carolina game.
It's kind of random, but I want to ask about Edwin Spillman. Lipscomb had that huge game against IMG last week. Matt did an awesome job on his notebook, highlighted Edwin Spillman. But I mean, Spillman had like 12 tackles. He laid the thunder to a fellow Tennessee commit, Jonathan Eccles. But you look at his rating; he's kind of down there a little bit. But Edwin Spillman, obviously, already in this class. He's a cornerstone of this class. He's been one of the highest rated players in this in the state for a couple of years now. It sounds like he and a couple other ones already off to a good start of their senior seasons.
Well, for Edwin, he's gradually went down in ranking with us for whatever reason. But Charles Power was there in attendance, and one would imagine that with him playing that way against a really, really talented IMG team, that potentially his rating is going to go back up, and rightfully so. Edwin, packs the punch. Again, you look at who coveted Edwin Spillman late, and it's some upper echelon college football playoff routine contenders. And so to me, that's where I always go with it is who wants you, where can you go, and I think that's what matters.
Well, and I love his frame that you have to work with. I mean, he comes in with really good size. We've seen that with Arian Carter and T. Lander and those guys looking the part when they get here. Edwin Spillman is going to be 225 pounds, 230 pounds when he arrives on campus. Really like the frame that he's got to work with, because I think that physically there's a lot more to gain and grow with Edwin Spillman, and he obviously plays a physical brand of football right now.
Well, you look right there at the where he's ranked in the state, 8th in the on-3 industry ranking, on-3 overall 9th, 24/7 has him as 3rd. ESPN 7th, and then Rivals has him as 5th, and I'm blind, so I'm having to squint here. He's definitely a top 5 player in the state for me. Like, to me, that's not even in discussion. Again, I would argue the Tennessee State rankings with just about anybody, because I've seen most of these kids. So's Matt, and feel like we have a pretty fair judge of talent. I can't judge everybody, but I could probably judge the state pretty well.